Okay, so welcome back. I have gotten this thing up and going as a DHCP server. The next thing I'm going to do is bring it up as a DNS server. I have already downloaded Bind. This is there are many DNS servers. Bind 9. This is the Berkeley distribution of the Berkeley Internet Name Daemon Bind, their implementation of DNS. DNS is an open standard. There are many implementations of it. You can even build, actually, if you build Active Directory these days, you have to build DNS. Either integrated into the Active Directory, in which case the zone database becomes part of the global catalog, or as a standalone DNS server. And I suppose you could have your master server, your original master server, with your 5 key roles. And we're not going to get into the weeds of those 5 key roles in DNS right now. You could have your Active Directory integrated DNS, which coincidentally also kind of becomes dynamic DNS, tying in DHCP if you've got it. With standalone DNS servers, say caching only servers at other locations, but that's kind of off the point right now. The first thing I'm actually going to do is make sure I've got VMware Tools installed. There are a couple of ways to do this. You can now, if you the way that VMware tells you to do this, by going here to VM and install tools. If you do this and turn everything on, the first thing it will do is tell you, oh, by the way, there's a better way, the Open VM Tools. But I'm going to go the long way around. Okay, so using the CD-ROM. Okay, so this may have some, okay, and go away. So I might actually have to go to my file menu. This is one of those places where the GUI is actually slightly easier to, well, the GUI is usually easier to use, usually not as powerful. So actually, now that I think about it, let me close that. I don't need that. I'm going to pause this. Oh, it's taking its time. Okay, something that will occasionally happen if you've got the ISO of the ISO loaded because it was pre-selected when you built the VM. Sometimes if you're trying to mount some other ISO image, like say VMware Tools, it'll cause a problem. VMware Tools seems to have installed correctly, so I'm going to pop over here. While I was waiting for that to happen, I checked my Bind 9 status. It is up, it is running. I still haven't configured it, so it doesn't really do me much good. I suppose when I fire up another one of these VMs and I nmap my infrastructure server, I'll see that port open. On the other hand, I might not, because you don't just enable Bind. You don't just start the service. You enable the server. Up until that happens, it doesn't necessarily do much of anything. And for some reason, Firefox is starting. That will probably explain how slow this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my own home directory. Now, my performance leaves something to be desired just now, because while I'm only running the one VM, I've done a lot today. My disk read-write is at 100%, so all of this is going to be a little bit slow. If you find yourself doing a lot with VMs, and you bring them in, bring them out, whatever, it might not hurt to not just shut down VMware Workstation, reboot the entire machine, particularly if it's a workstation class machine like this, and you don't hurt anything by rebooting. So what I'm going to do actually is ls media CD-ROM. Okay, some 0. Interesting. CD media. Now what I might actually have to do, reading directory 0. Interesting. But it's possible that, close tabs, I might actually have to eject this thing. Okay, eject anyway. That probably happened because I'm in the directory. Let's go home. Now let's try this again. So Debian 9, I'm going to dismount the Debian 9, and I'm going to install VMware Tools again. And now let me go back into that directory. ls. So this is what I want. What I'm going to do is copy this gzipped tarball to my own home directory. That will allow me to take full control of it. Right now, all this stuff belongs to root. I am root. I mean, I have the ability to sudo to root, in addition to knowing the root password, so for all intents and purposes, I am root. But I want to do this stuff as me, without sudo. So I'm going to do cp vm, and remember tab completion. Tab completion is your friend. Okay, and okay, so I jumped the gun just a little. The next thing I'm going to do is unzip this. Now, you can only use the tar z option if the tarball has been gzipped. Alternatively, you could unzip that tarball, then unpack it with the other commands. Okay, interesting. Okay, so something went wrong the first time I copied it. I should have been a little more patient before issuing the ls command. The file wasn't right. I had to delete it and drop it again. So now there's a VMware Tools directory that I can get into. And there is an installer, a Perl file, sudo / this is how you do this. The file belongs to root, and it is installing software, so you install it as sudo. And we wait. And of course, it says that I could be using the Open VM Tools package. I'm going to do that. With this, you just kind of fall through. And I'm going to pause. Okay. Okay, so VMware Tools is installed, but I don't get the full bang for my buck until I log out and log back in again, as it indicates. I don't want to restart my session. That's kind of silly. So what I want to do is log out and log in. This is rather like making changes. Oh, cancel, not what I was doing. I want to log out. This is rather like making changes to, say, your .profile or your .bashrc, or even your .alias. Those changes don't take effect until the system has a chance to reload all of that with a new bash session or a new login session or whatnot. So, I've installed VMware Tools. I've enabled myself to not drag and drop, but copy and paste the zone database file I talked about in a previous video, and as well as the named conf local file, as usual. And you're actually going to have to create some of these files yourself. They don't come out of the box set up. I seem to be waiting on the system, so I'll pause again. Okay, so I've logged out, logged back in. I've done a version nmap on myself. I can see I've got the SSH port open, the domain name port open, the DNS port open. My bind server is active and running. So now I need to go ahead and configure it. So cd Now, cd etc bind. So right here, you're gonna do a few things. You're going to create a directory to contain the local database structure you need to zone database you need to create. You're going to also modify this name dconf local. Okay, so we're back. So I'm in this etc bind directory. This belongs to root, so if you're going to make a new zones directory for the zone database file, you're going to have to do so as root. So sudo mkdir zones. You're also going to sudo cp named conf local to another file. As I said before in a previous video, never paint yourself into a corner. Always make a backup of everything that matters so that if you've completely discombobulated everything, you can at least hit the reset button, as it were. So the next thing I'm going to do is edit this file. So sudo vim name dconf local. Okay, so there's nothing here. Just a second. So this is my zone database. As you can see, it's empty. I've copied it from the Notepad++ file I have on the other screen. I'm going to go to Edit, Paste. Boom. Escape, WQ. If I do this again, hopefully it will, interesting, no. It did not syntax highlight as expected. That's fine. The next thing I'm going to do is go into the zone database, zone directory, zones, and sudo touch tstc.local.db. This will allow me to then sudo vim tstc.local.db. And pause again. Okay, now after a little bit of copy and pasting and some deleting of spare lines, which I might have to do in the other one to get it to syntax highlight correctly, I now have a zone database. I've got a start of authority record, I've got a serial number which I should increment every time I change this. So for example, if I have some of these IP addresses wrong, say I change my mind about the IP address of the NFS and Samba server, I can go in here, change that, increment the final 2 digits of my serial number, and I'll have some, my name servers will have some concept talking to each other if they've got the latest information. I'll have to test this implementation in another video.